Welcome to another Jew Function special, which we call the State of Israel. So how's Princeton?
Strangely quiet. I'm checking.
No rocket alerts.
No rocket alerts yet. New York is another story. Changing. I'm checking Twitter way too often. Just trying to feel what's going on. It's so interesting these days to be able to actually get your news from first person everywhere. Like I don't turn on the news at all. Like you see literally either Hamas guy or someone from the IDF, or like you're literally watching everything like from first person and trying to piece together some kind of semblance of what's going on.
Yeah. And I'm curious. What did it look like? It's going on from
Right now.
1,000 kilometers.
Okay, so when it first happened, when it first started, it was like all the footage was people being kidnapped, people being executed, people breaching the border by air and by land, and that's what it seemed like. Now, what I see in my feed is in cities everywhere, huge pro-Palestinian. I think there was
Rallies
50,000 people. Yeah, like
in London.
in London. Yeah,
Yeah,
so in all
I
these
read somewhere
places.
there's about 27. There were 27 of them pro, but there were 84 for Israel. So
Okay, so there was
pretty tough.
also, yeah, I don't know about numbers wise, but I did see that there was way. I mean, I would have never imagined seeing in France and in some other places. I saw in Germany also there was Germans outside of a synagogue protecting it on Friday night. I didn't expect that, but the kind of overarching narrative that I'm at least seeing in my news feed is kind of changed very quickly. You know, it's like when you have two kids. If one kid hits the other kid, you like say to the older kid, it's like, don't hit back, and then it'll be clear who did the wrong thing, and then we can deal with that. But as soon as they both start punching each other, then you have to deal with both. Even if one is wrong, you still have to deal with both. And I think that it's just so strange. It's what's most strange to me is that standing up for innocent people, for example, Palestinians that are living in a difficult situation, that's one thing. But there's so much support behind people who kidnapped others, who executed others, who came in and just sprayed entire families. And there's people marching in support of that. That it's difficult to process what that's all about.
Yeah, I think it was a sobering moment for a lot of people. Everybody I talked to, and the people on the street, and just on in your in your Facebook circles, and also the comment sections and all the special bulletins that come out. It's like, enough, zero tolerance. We gave him jobs, we did this, and
Meaning the
I
Israelis gave jobs to Palestinians.
yeah, dude. The 3 days before the attack, some high-ranking army official says Hamas is deterred, and we're planning to open up, give another 10,000 work permits, and we think it's going in the right direction. Like, it's
Wow.
clueless. Because for years the thought process was, you're humans, we're humans. We disagree on some things, but let's try to work it out. Let's work toward peace, right? That's what the whole world was chanting for the last 30 years. So how do you work towards peace? You make
Not the whole
concessions, right?
world, by the way.
What's
A lot
that?
of the world. Not the whole world.
Yeah, not the whole
Definitely
world,
not
but
Iran and Qatar. By the way, Qatar hosted the World Cup, which is like
yeah,
so
forget about them.
strange.
Forget about them. I mean, there's always, one, two crazy kids, right, at the back of the class. That's fine, but generally speaking, the classroom of humanity, the class of 23, most kids were for, like, having these two kids work it out, right? I mean, like, and there's like, okay, you make concessions, you lower the wall a little bit. You let them in, you let them work, you help them out, provide electricity, water, pipes, infrastructure, cement, money, all those things that you would expect. And dude, I got to tell you, Gaza sits on one of the nicest beaches in the Mediterranean. I mean, nice beach. They get like golden sands from the Nile. It's like beautiful. They could have been like, right, like Dubai, right?
Better.
But
Dubai has nothing but just
just
artificial
money.
things.
Yeah, they just have money, so they just build whatever they want. So these
But
guys,
Gaza, right? It's on the
dude, the amount of
Mediterranean.
money that was put
Beautiful.
into Gaza, if you add it up, you could make like, it could be like it could be
Everyone
like
could be living great.
yeah, it could have been some crazy resort for people, for whatever, or just like normal living. Because again, if people want to, if you want peace, then that's the direction you'll go in. It's not like, and then you're willing to forgive a few crazies. But when the crazies are voted themselves into power and no one from that area resists, then you have to assume they're going hand in hand. Some people say, well, not all of them like Hamas, but whatever. Right now, if Palestinians in Gaza are not willing to die, to shed blood to take out Hamas, then they will unfortunately shed blood as Israel is taking out Hamas. Someone has to deal with Hamas, because Hamas is really a really bad actor, as they call them. I mean, it's as bad as they get. And also, you can't even rationally rationalize them, support them, because they've been raised on this ideology of hate, which is just bad. We know we're products of the environment. Once you are raised on that.
If people haven't seen that, you can find videos of the schools and of the children who say, like little children, 5, 6, 7 years old boys and girls.
I wrote
I need to drive over the Jews.
Yeah, I wrote a post about this woman who was survived in Ofakim, and she's like, do you have kids? It's like, yeah, 3 kids, and why aren't you?
This is a Jewish woman who these guys came into.
Five guys. Well, the story was that 2 trucks showed up in Ofakim early on, and it's a big town, few tens of thousands of people. I mean, not big, but big in the sense it's like not a kibbutz. It was like a town, right? And they showed up, and luckily they were met by 7 civilians, or like 2 cops and 5 guys with just personal guns, which they had a firefight. 6 guys on the Israeli side died, but they managed to kill 7 of the terrorists. So these 2 heavily armored, just full of weapons, guns, cocaine, by the way, they found, like all that stuff. So they were just getting ready to, kill all human, right? That was like so they got 7 of the terrorists, and then the remaining 7 panicked and split. So 2 ran one way and 5 ran another way. And these 5 got into a building, started shooting up some people, and then got into her apartment. This woman.
Was this Rachel? I saw.
Yeah, that's Rachel's the superhero, right? And then they had her. They were just in her place for 20 hours. Had tied a grenade to her head, and she's like, well, you look tired. Why don't you sit down? I'll, some coffee, some tea. She was talking to them. Come on, I'll cook you some food, and she was just chatting them up. And they kept her alive. And she's like, you have kids? Don't you have kids? I said, yeah, I have 3 kids. If you want to go see them, why don't you? You don't want to die. And I'm like, no, my kids want me to die. I mean, when you get to such a level, there's really no foundation for peace. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of
if you feel like when you die that. And I heard actually in London, a guy on his megaphone out at the march, he's like, they want life. For us, life begins at death.
Exactly.
So it's a different creature. We're not, when you go to negotiate, for example, in a business deal, you have to understand, what does this person want? What do I want? And how can we make some kind of, how can we find some compromise here to make a good deal? But if you're dealing with a hungry lion, you can't compromise. He wants to eat you. That's just it. There's no middle ground. Can't we find some middle? So if there's a person who feels that you need to be dead, and his life begins when he dies. So
I think we said it in one of the episodes, right? The problem in the Middle East is that the Palestinians want to kill all the Jews, and the Jews refuse to die, and that's the root of the problem. No, but Golda Meir said a couple of a
Yeah.
couple of amazing things she
Bella
said.
Hadid just co-opted Golda's one of her quotes. Actually, I saw
Really,
I saw on social media that Golda said if the Jews put down their
weapons, there will be no more war. If Israel, when the Arabs put down their weapon, Golda said, when the Arabs
yeah
put down their weapons, there will be no more war. When Israel puts down its weapon, there will be no more Israel.
yeah, so one of these Hadid sisters, these models, just wrote the quote, but in the other way. I don't think she probably realized where it came from.
I don't know if you realized anything. And then she says, Gold also said, we're capable of forgiving the Arabs for killing our children. We're not capable of forgiving them that they force us to kill their children.
Yeah.
We will have peace with the Arabs only when they love their children more than they hate us. So that's like, 50 years ago, they figured it out. And over the years, it just became harder and harder to stomach those ideas. And that's why you find all these concessions and, we'll give them land, we'll do this, we'll do that. But it all goes back to, it goes back to the podcast, man. It goes back to what, what we laid out. It has nothing to do with this. I mean, if we can sit here and talk about stories from Gaza and stories from around Gaza, and they did this and did that, and why did this happen and that happened. But what we're saying is something completely different. We're saying that all of this happens because we are not united. We are not only not united in solidarity.
We have to hold on. We have to slow down. We have to give the
we only have
disclaimer. We don't have time, but we have to give the disclaimer on it. We're not saying we don't need a military. We're not saying we don't need to protect ourselves. We have to do all these things. We have to be smarter. We have to be braver. We have to have a stronger military. All these things. What we also want to do is solve this forever. Solve this going forward, not get into these situations at all. And because of that.
What are we saying? Every episode, every calamity is preceded by Jewish disunity, right? Isn't that what we're saying?
That's what we've been saying
every episode. We're
so
like
tell me what you experienced in Israel right before this happened.
Dude,
worst... Our premise after 50 episodes of the podcast is saying that we see Jewish disunity, and every time the Jewish disunity fighting amongst Jews reaches a certain peak, an enemy comes and hits us. So that's what we've been talking about for 3 years together, exactly. 50 episodes, whatever it is. Now, what did you see before this attack as living in Israel?
The worst Jewish disunity since the Second Temple, probably, I dare say. The worst. Calls for splitting the country into two states, not two states, Jews and Arabs, two Jewish states, right? If this is even a concept, two Jewish states. We're not you, you're not that. We're not brothers. The guy in power is a Nazi. Burn this. He's creating that, right? Like the level of animosity of just like this spewing hatred, and not only hatred. It externally, right, on the level of kind of what people are seeing with their eyes and hearing with their ears, you have half the people, well, not half number-wise, but one group basically saying, we don't want all this talk about being Jewish and a creator, and they can't even stomach this whole idea.
Secular, would you call that the secular group?
It's
more than
liberal, progressive. It's weird. Because it's not just about being secular. It's almost like
you're secular, but you still can have customs or things.
I'm studying the world. We're studying the world, Seth, and we're seeing that there are forces at work here. And the problem is, if you look at them religiously, then you get lost in the all institutionalized religion and all of that, right? Money-making machine and controlling and all that. But when you look at it as a scientist who study the cosmos and all the forces, and you say, well, there's a force, and people who manage to touch that force, to feel it, say, oh, it's a force of love, and we can feel it if we create love between us. That's kind of like the physics of that, and we talked about it a lot.
So who are the ones you're talking about? Who is this group?
So to even say, to acknowledge that, hey, maybe I'm not the biggest thing, in the universe. Maybe there's a force above me. Maybe there's a plan or a trajectory that it's moving. Maybe there are some laws. This half the people refuse to admit because they think it pins them down as dark, antiquated, religious, right, medieval, superstitious,
With all the modern science, it's weird that they still believe that.
Because they're not. Because I have news for you. They're not like very necessarily intelligent people. They're also emotional, except they're emotional on the other side. They feel like whatever control they have left on their own lives, which is, falling apart, if they cede that control to some higher power, then they really lost it, because
So this group
because
was
that equals
against was fight.
because that equals no public transportation on Saturday, and someone's gonna let me eat bacon on my cheeseburger, and all kinds of weird, stupid, really,
But it's also
self-pleasure, right?
what I saw during Yom Kippur, how those seculars went to some religious areas and removed the barrier between the men and the women.
What do you mean? They
But
literally blew up, but not with weapons, but blew up the Yom Kippur prayer, which has been going on for 30 years in the middle of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv was
I
always like
imagine to myself, would they go if the Muslims had a prayer in Tel Aviv?
they had a month
Would
before.
they ever go and separate,
No, of course
or
not.
disrupt that? No, they wouldn't. So it's specifically, there's something weird about how people treat the Jews and how Jews treat the Jews.
Exactly.
It's not the same.
And again, we presented an explanation, but it's very hard to hear it, because immediately as you say it, people equate, if I'm not with the liberals, you want me to be with the other fanatics. And it's like,
The ultra-Orthodox.
yeah, but
example.
it's also some weird, they're gonna, my sister needed an abortion and she couldn't have it here. Like all kinds of people immediately make it personal about themselves, as people do, right? And about themselves and about whatever little degree of personal freedom that they think is going to be robbed by somehow yielding to the other side. That's what this whole thing is about: the feeling of power and control.
So
over the other
specifically, just harp on this for a second. Really dig in on this. What this Jewish disunity that was happening before the attack. We talked about the Jewish disunity before the attack. We talked about when the Romans came in to Jerusalem, when they destroyed the Second Temple. There was already, they just walked in. There was already civil war going on.
Yeah. I put it on my Facebook. I put this line from an interrogation of a Hamas terrorist that was captured, and he said, "Yeah, we were sitting there watching you protesting and against each other, and we thought that's a good opportunity." I mean, do you need a more rational explanation? Forget our, mumbo jumbo about some power that forms when you unite. Even though we all know that this power is real, everybody's doing it. Animals are doing it, for God's sakes.
You feel it at a rock concert. You feel it at a sports event.
Yeah,
you feel it everywhere.
Everywhere. More than that, you feel it when you're a baby. The reason you're able to, just go into the world, explore, make mistakes, fall, get up, do crazy shit, and just kind of, eat life. It's, kids, they eat life. They eat life because they feel this love, this protection of this love that happens around them. That's what happens there. It's not it's not some, nature just unlocked a gene, and then when you hit puberty, the gene locks back in and you become a crazy introvert. No, dude, it's all love. You either got it and you grow up to be this, right, amazing human being, or you're robbed of that feeling of love and then you suffer. All the studies show that. So what we're saying is simply keep giving that love beyond childhood to everyone all the time, above all the differences, or else. And sadly, we're experiencing the else. Sitting here, our friends are visiting. We're visiting. You were here in Israel not long ago.
Last week.
Yeah, last week.
It's like a year ago. It feels like 10 years ago.
Yeah, our good friend Juan was heading out to the airport, and right before we sat down, there was a rocket alert, and we got into the shelter, which is this room, and he writes to me that they were sitting in the plane. It's a military plane. They came to take them with soldiers from the Netherlands, right? All documented and everything, and sitting in the plane, and then one of the rockets was intercepted, but above the runway, so that debris was falling. So they kept them on the plane, and they and now the soldiers are calling people's mothers in their homeland to calm them down, and that they'll take off. So, I mean, this is not something. This is something very, very, very real. And for all the good intentions or ill intentions or whatever, whoever's intentions on the right, on the left, in America, in Russia, in all those years that this has been going on, no one was able to offer a solution. Okay, one state solution, two state solution, n state solution. It doesn't matter. You won't solve it. And every year just highlights how hard it will be to solve it. Every year they say, well, in a few years we'll. No. Now you just ruin a generation. A generation on both sides is going to grow up not wanting to see look into the other generation's face. We can't. The only thing we have left is to build some form of unity. That will work.
How is that looking in the nation right now? I remember after 9/11, for about 3 months, there was an incredible feeling.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I just heard. I was on a different panel earlier today, and I heard a friend who's a doctor for education. There was a study on firefighters after 9/11, and one and not one. I mean, a lot of firefighters lost their lives there, and then the community of firefighters, they stuck together to try to kind of cope with it. And the way they coped with it was through like dark humor. That's how they kind of But then after a few years, they did additional study and they realized that it failed miserably. Everybody was just more traumatized because what was missing is this warm, heartfelt connection. Not, hey, how's it going? Not this fake smiles and dark, morbid jokes, right? No, actual care. That's the only thing that was missing. They didn't have it, so they suffered more. And only when they started to add that in later. And you see it in families, you see it in societies, all kind. That's what you need. So this unity. What we have now in Israel is solidarity. Definitely, you have a lot of people who suddenly kind of realize like, oh my God. I also another post. I'm not promoting my post. I'm just like I'm sharing what it kind of came through me, and I just put it out. But one of my posts says that in Gaza we were spared another civil war. So some people are suddenly like, oh my God, where was I? I was like, kill these guys and kill these guys, and suddenly like, whoa. It's like they're like as if someone broke a trance, Like I remember in Aladdin, you had the guy, the
So
vizier.
is that really what happened? Did most people realize? Like I have a relative who's out at UCLA, and there was Hamas protests out at pro-Hamas protests out at UCLA. But he said to me he thought that we reached peak woke. He thought that this was like that people realized like I'm supporting someone who's kidnapped children. Like that's some kind of line there. And I'm wondering if people there did reach some moment of clarity, or is the back, because what happened after 9/11 was it was incredible brotherly love in the city for a short time,
right?
And then it went back,
right? I saw,
and everything happens faster in Israel, so I'm wondering.
Israel is smaller, and also right away we like went into a state of war. So everybody's like in it and have kids fighting there and dying there and all that. It's not like in the US where, the army is a professional thing and it's a career thing, and you may live your whole life never seeing a soldier or meeting a soldier or knowing of someone who is a soldier. You may not have that connection even. It's something that we do, right? Like, people go and do stuff overseas, and someone may die on a gas drilling rig in the middle of the ocean from an explosion, or someone died from an explosion in Afghanistan. It's like, it's far from you. It's far. Here it's very, very close. It's very, very close. Everybody knew people. Dude, our friend Maria from Toronto, she was in a party the day before, in that party in the south. Stasik was in the party the day before. in that party. They could have been, one of those names there, right? One of the 300. So it's very, very close. And so immediately that feeling of like, all right, dropping all the shit, and now we're shoulder to shoulder, and I was supporting the troops and all that. It kind of takes over the entire country very, very quickly. So that part is great, okay? But that's not what we're talking about. We're not saying unite after, the wolves eat, they ate a few of the sheep. So now we're all kind of pulling in, formation and united, and we stand against the wolves. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about unity that will continue after, even as you go through this war effort, and then through the witch hunt, and probably battles over who was responsible for what and who should pay how and all. If you ask me, the whole political, top level of politics and military, just resign. It's a great opportunity to start fresh everywhere. Really.
All these big changes will happen. What also is difficult, and we didn't talk about it maybe enough until this point, and maybe we should. It's not magic. It's not something mystical, but you take a mom and a dad. They get in bed together for some amount of time. They're not sitting there forming the ears and building the brain. The part that they do is very small. The part that nature does to make the baby is really the magic, right? What does the couple do? Crafting the eyeballs? Nothing. They just enjoy each other for a little while, and nature does all the work.
Right.
We don't talk enough. I don't think we talked enough. Maybe we need to, that from our unity, what will be born out of this is like pretty much what the man and the woman do. That's all we need to do. Just get together. Nature will operate through us and create this kind of incredible future that we're looking for. We will see something totally different. If we want a good life, if we want a good future, if we want to go somewhere, we have to include that force.
I would love to have this panel that we've been talking about doing.
Yes.
And bring people and say, look, this is the challenge. What do we do? The challenge not of like
unity now,
not rebuilding Gaza, not rebuilding these towns around Gaza, not dealing with the Palestinian refugee problem, none of that. One thing alone: how do we maintain unity, cohesion among the Jewish society in Israel and abroad?
Other groups can do the rebuilding. Other groups can deal with the politics.
Everybody can do whatever they do.
Our work. The thing that we're focusing on is the Jewish unity. Somebody has to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it has to be there throughout as a constant thing, like a balloon you have to keep in the air, right? A bunch of balloons, rather. We have this game, right? So that's the challenge. That's the one thing nobody wants to do, because it means getting rid of a lot of redundant things that we do, and a lot of jobs and thoughts about, personal profits and all that. No, it's going to have to be education and example and all those things that we kind of, it's too much work. Just, where's that? Just give me the button, but you have to have it. You have to have it. And I hope that maybe for the first time in a long time, people are starting to have this innate realization, innate understanding of the need for it. They may not look at it the way we look at it. Oh, it's a mandate by nature, and we're so like our role, and we have to, and if not, like this is maybe too much to take in. But just on a very basic human level, right? They say, look, if you want to win in Israel, you can't win wars with technology and cameras and fences. No, people have to have this spirit in them, right? It's like the righteousness of, they said two things. You need the righteousness of your goal, of your path, right? That it's for something real that you are fighting for, and then that spirit needs to be there. That spirit will only come when that feeling of cohesion, of unity is
the spirit
there.
The spirit also comes from, I hate to say it like this, but if 20 people were murdered and 5 people were kidnapped, the spirit wouldn't come. The whole nation, the spirit overcame because the extent of the suffering was so great.
Yeah, the shock was huge.
Yeah, and what we're talking about is, because it wouldn't have happened if it was 100 people. It wouldn't have happened if it was 50 people. It happened once it hit that critical point where it shook the whole nation. We
The world, I
want
think, is shaken. The
the
whole
world.
world.
Right. We're working to get to that point, to that spirit of brotherhood and goodness without that having to happen. That's what we've been trying to talk about for all of this time.
And what we're saying is that I don't see any other way to move forward. I mean, let's be a little blunt here, right? And kind of talk about the situation a little bit. You have 2.2 to anywhere between 2.2 2.5 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip alone. You have this 17 Arab countries. Nobody wants to take them, so they're probably not going anywhere. Probably, I don't know. It might change. Meanwhile, this strip is going to get just shredded for the next few days. That's a certainty. Like it, don't like it, it's happening. It's already that action is going to get that reaction no matter what. You have about another 1.5 million people, Palestinians living in what we call the West Bank, right? Judea and Samaria, Yehuda v'Shomron. Right? You have those people and problems there, and the people in power there, the Fatah and their friends, they're not better, honestly. You can see from how they're speaking, it's probably they didn't have the right maybe conditions to create a similar scenario on their end, but many of them would have loved to see it, right? So you're not going to be able to get rid of them as well. I mean, you're not going to exterminate them. You can't like exile them again. You kind of things are kind of stuck in this stalemate, and people are going to get hurt on both sides, but it's not going to get solved. All you increase as time goes by is the level of despair from the situation, right? Those who seek a peace realize that there's no partner for peace. Those who seek war realize that no matter what, they won't be able to just eradicate the problem. So we kind of like in this weird situation. So what do you do? What do you do? Only one thing you can do: focus on yourself. Focus on the one thing that you may be able to change or to work with, right? So that's, I think, the call right now. And I think we're saying it to everyone who might be listening. I hope this goes far and wide, of our friends, people we've had here on the show. And we're going to invite them. We're going to have some panels in the coming days. But what are we doing with ourselves? What can we control? What can we do so this thing does not repeat and maybe even goes away for good, right? What can we do?
Now is a critical moment where we can do it.
Again, we have the support of the world. The world is kind of giving us this push, right? Like we've gotten this.
It's like when a space shuttle needs to take off, there's these windows. You can't just launch it after lunch. We have to wait until there's a certain window because of different gravity.
Yeah,
there's a window right now. Yeah. We have to take advantage of this opportunity.
We have to unite the ranks just to survive and get through this. That's psychologically, emotionally, militarily, all that. But then we have to look forward. How do we get to a place where we disagree with any call from within that calls to separate, to pit one group against another? Those days are over. We're done. I don't want to do another episode on how Jews were not united in 2028 and then this happened. Enough. As we said, enough of that shit. Let's do something that we've never done before.
That's it. That's what all these thousands of years are leading to. That's what all of these calamities are leading to. That's what all of the sages, all the holy books, everything is to bring us to this point of doing that, of being that example for all of humanity, of a group of people who unite in love.
Yeah. Did the impossible,
Be an example for all of humanity. Nobody else has done it.
Yeah. Take right and left, put them together, show the world you can do it. That's it. And be proud of it. Be happy about it.
That's your contribution to humanity. And everyone will be happy.
I think more than happy. But let's start with happy. All right, Seth. That was good. Thank you for letting me unload some of those things. There's just so much emotion there. But we'll meet again. We also have a few. I'm letting people know who are watching this. We have a few episodes we shot before. A few great talks actually we shot before this happened, and I want to put them out. But I want to make sure that people understand that it was shot before, so we're not like ignoring the situation. But there's still great talks, and we want to probably invite those people over and like us, follow us, share this message. Really, we were spared from above. As horrific as this thing that happened, it gave us an opportunity, a window opened. It stopped the infighting. It stopped for a moment everything, and now there's like it's that point where you're like neither rising nor falling. Where are you going? Let's use it. Follow the Jew function, like, comment, subscribe, everything needed, and let's bring this home.
Our destiny's in our hands, everyone.
Yes. All right, Seth. It was a pleasure. I'll see you, and see everyone else right here on the Jew function.